All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Nick, call signs KN6DAL with the 2 Meter Crew Anti-Net. We had another net that was linked to our system somehow, and I'm not sure how that was. And so if for any reason we're interrupting anybody's traffic, if you could please come in now and let me know.
You sound good on VVR.
All right. With that being said, my node number that is linked to our system is 512342. If anybody at any time wants to disconnect from that, that's the Allstar node that is linked to the system right now. If we do end up interrupting any traffic, so we'll get carried on. This is the 2 Meter Crew Anti-Net, and again, my name is Nick, call signs KN6DAL, and we appreciate everybody coming out to support us. We want to thank the owners and supporters of the W6 VVR repeater system and the Vacaville Radio Club. Also, a big thanks to the Freestar Network for the use of their repeaters and digital connections. And then also a shout out to the WX5 NAS repeater system. And then last but not least, a big thanks to the N6 MPX repeater system in down in San Mateo. Also, huge thanks to Mike WG5EEK, Greg W5GSW, and Brian KK6BXP for all their networking efforts. And although Mike's not here, I was kind of waiting to see if he was going to jump on. Huge congratulations to you, Mike, on upgrading to your general class. And also a big thanks to everything that you've taught me, because it proved extremely worthwhile today when my entire Allstar Node system completely crapped out on me and I had to figure out how to get it to work right before the Anti-Net tonight. And I did, because of all the things you've taught me. So thank you to everybody who's played a part in my growth and also to keeping all the connections alive for what we're doing here. And before we get going, we're just going to take a second and see if there's any emergency or priority traffic. If there is at any point throughout the Anti-Net, you can say break, break with your call sign and pass the traffic that you need, and we'll clear the air for you. If there's any emergency or priority traffic, come here at this time. All right, the 2 Meter Crew is not an actual club. We're just a group of ham radio operators that are learning and enjoying all things ham related. There's no dues or fees to be a 2 Meter Crew member. If you're looking for more information, you can check out our website at 2metercrew.net. You can also check out our Discord group, and on YouTube, there's in the description, there's links to those if you want to check them out. This is an open net. It's open for everyone. Welcome for anybody, all ages. Definitely we want to welcome newcomers and people that are upgrading their classes. The 2 Meter Crew Anti-Net meets every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 3 a.m. UTC on the W6 VVR repeater. And there's also many digital connections you can use. Echolink is at W6VVR-R. We're linked through Allstar Nodes 51094 and 512342. Also through DMR Talk Group 3174-117. And through YSF Reflector 50462. And also through Freestar's All-Star links at 2195 and 2196. You can also access us through the Mad Scientist Amateur Radio Club repeater in San Mateo, California. And then if you can't access any digital connections or through any repeaters, we will be posting a Zoom link, and you're always welcome to jump in on that Zoom link and say hi that way. All right, and last but not least, the 2 Meter Crew Anti-Net is being live streamed at Northwest Ham Shack. If you like and subscribe to that channel on YouTube, you can get notifications when we go live every Wednesday. And then also there's those links to Discord and the website on the description if you're interested. And before we get into any kind of topic, we just want to take a second and see if there's any new operators that have never checked in with us before, or any operators that recently upgraded their license. So if you're new and you've never checked in, or you are just upgraded your license, come on in now. That thing keeps keying up. It's really weird. All right, nothing being heard. So I didn't really have much of a topic for tonight, and I sat down at my computer and was getting everything fired up this evening. And then Dave texted me and said, just, hey, are we on for tonight? And I was just getting started. Everything was going great. And I was like, yeah, we're ready to roll. And then I go to try to get my All-Star link to connect, and nothing worked. And so lucky for me, and this is kind of why I had shouted out to Mike on a big thanks for all the things he taught me, is he always taught me to back up my SD card. And so since that time, I've always taken a backup, and I have a backup on another SD card ready to go all the time. So if something doesn't work, I can simply pop that out, pop a new one in, and go. Well, when I did that, the WAN IP, not the internal IP address, but the WAN IP changed, and so it wouldn't let me access the user interface on my web browser to control like all the digital connections and all that stuff. So I sat there and fought with that, and finally figured it out, and got everything connected like right before we went live. So I figured that would be a good topic for tonight, is tell me about your ham radio catastrophes. What didn't work well? And what did you learn from it, and how did you get it to work again? Or maybe you didn't. Maybe you're still fighting to make it work. I have lots of projects that are on the shelf because I just haven't been able to get things to work. And then I have things like that where I can say that, had I not been prepared from what another operator taught me, it would have probably been something that I wouldn't have even been able to, take part in the anti-net tonight, because I would have had no way to connect anything. So always super cool to lean on the people around you and learn and kind of try to grow from that. And I'm by far no expert on any of these topics. So, when I learn, I just try to take notes and try to listen to what people tell me, and then kind of learn as I go. And then inevitably I make a mistake, and then I kind of grow from that mistake. And so each troublesome hurdle ends up, I'll let this drop. Anyway, each like hurdle that I go through, I end up growing just a little bit more from it. So figured that could kind of be our topic tonight. And again, this is Nick, KN6DAL with the 2 Meter Crew Anti-Net. Let's see who we got out there that wants to check in. I did see on YouTube there was it looks like Darvin, KK60VH in Sebastopol. Hello and welcome. If you're near a repeater, you might be able to hit us and say hi. But let's see if we got any check-ins. Anybody that wants to check in to the 2 Meter Crew Anti-Net, come on in now.
Kilo November 6th, Alpha Alpha over in the Santa Cruz Mountains.
KN6PAA, I recognize that call sign, but I don't remember your name. How are you doing tonight?
Yes, thanks. This is Jeff. Juliet, Echo, Foxtrot, Foxtrot. Top of the Santa Cruz Mountains. Yeah, we're doing fine. Nice and clear, crisp and cool. Hopefully I'm getting through to your repeater very well. Kilo November 6th, Alpha Alpha.
Yeah, Jeff, you sound great coming into the repeater. I'm not I'm not the best person to give you a signal report on it, but I hear a little tiny bit of noise in the background, but your audio is clear and breaking through just fine. So you got any cool ham radio catastrophes you can tell us about? Anything that was a learning experience for you or something that went wrong that you fixed? Anything like that?
Is I've got myself a keying machine and an oscillator, and I'm still trying to learn how to do CW and get my timing down. I used to do music as a kid, but I tried to do it with 1, 2, 3, 1. That's the Foxtrot. Kilo November 6th, Alpha Alpha.
Yeah, we could go on all night about how much I suck at Morse code, but well, it's a tough thing to learn, especially when you only pick it up. Like for me, I only kind of pick it up and play with it, every so often. I suppose if I dedicated more time to it, I would do better. But hey, good luck with that, and hopefully you make some progress. And here in a little bit, you can tell us all about it. Anything else you want to add, Jeff, before we move on?
Been tardy. I've been so busy. Life gets in the way of this ham radio fun. So I'm just hopefully in another couple weeks I'll be back to normal. And I work for an Oktoberfest band, so we're wrapping it up this weekend. Kilo November 6th, Alpha, back to net control.
All right, Jeff. Thanks for checking in with us tonight. This is KN6DAL with the 2 Meter Crew Anti-Net. Looking for any and all check-ins. Come on in now.
Kilo 6 Zulu Juliet Charlie. Stephen coming to you on Echolink out of Tracy for the moment.
All right. I think I got KK6ZJC. You sound great coming through Echolink. So how's your evening going?
The evening is going very quiet. About the only real disaster I can honestly say I've had two. I had some friends that did not know what they were doing try to help me raise a dipole. They literally stepped all over the dipole. It was a fan dipole and tangled it all up. It had to be taken back down a couple of months later because I could never get it to work right. And then the other time I was trying to use plastic PVC pipe as a mast. I got it about 25 feet in the air to watch it bend over and snap and go straight crashing to the ground.
Oh, I'm visualizing that right now, and my heart just hurts for you because I know how hard it can be to get something even 25 feet in the air. It doesn't seem like a lot, but depending on what you have to work with, that can be a challenge sometimes. And so to have that just all fail, that's frustrating. I've had lots of antenna failures. I kind of just chop it up to, bad designs on my part. And I think plastic PVC, there's probably a better choice for a mast in terms of that, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I was trying to do like an emergency. An emergency antenna. We were trying to set up for Windsor Field Day. I was trying to set it up for. Needless to say, that year I did not get to participate.
Yeah, I've seen a few field day failures myself. It happens. Isn't that right, Dan? But I won't take your thunder if that's your story. But yeah, it's one thing that I learned with masks. So they make and you can get them on like eBay, and I think you could probably get them on Amazon. They make these. I mean, Soda Beams makes a mast that I don't know how high it goes, but it goes relatively high for kind of its packable size. But if you're looking for something that is capable of, you know, getting you in that kind of 18 to 25 foot range, they do make these fishing poles that you can modify the ends of them, because the ends of them are a little flimsy, but you can get a relatively small extendable telescopic fishing pole that's either carbon fiber or fiberglass that they're not perfect, but they hold up well enough to deploy kind of an emergency antenna. And it's much stronger than PVC. What I found with PVC, even using short lengths of it, is that it will it seems like the sun will bow it over time. And so I try to avoid that stuff when I can. But KK6ZJC, I will pass it back over to you for your final.
Okay, and that's pretty much, right now, that's about the only disasters I've got in the making for the moment. So with that, I will say 73 and just be listening on the side. KK6ZJC.
Awesome. Thanks for the check-in. This is Nick, KN6DAL, with the 2 Meter Crew Anti-Net, looking for any and all check-ins. Anybody that wants to check in, come on in now. Are you guys hearing it key up? Yeah. That's Vacaville. That's VVR doing it.
There's somebody coming in, but no audio.
All right. All right. If somebody was trying to key up there, we didn't hear any audio pass through on that, so maybe try again in a little bit. I'm going to pass it over to Dave. K6WBY. How you doing, man?
Hey, Nick. Good evening, all. This is Dave, K6WBY. Interesting question tonight. I've had a lot going on in ham radio this week without actually touching a radio. I've gotten some big steps done on the ham shack. So got it all weather tight, painted, got a couple of things ordered because of the anti-net conversation last week. I ordered that electric, adjustable standing desk, which is going to be my bench. So that solved the problem I've been dealing with for quite some time. And so making some good progress, and excited to kind of get on to where I'm sure I'll have many failures setting up my tower and kind of getting the rest of this going. But for right now, I have to say anything DMR related, for the life of me, every time I go in there and try and get my DMR account set up and passwords and just try and get that going, I seem to just run into a failure before. I've never actually transmitted on DMR, even though my OpenSpot has the capability to do it. So I run into roadblocks with just getting an account set up and getting through the initial steps. So that's something I need to focus on and get a DMR radio and learn that and try and take on that mode. But that's my fail at this point every time.
Yeah, that's a good one. KN6DAL. I struggle with DMR sometimes still, and I've got I've used it quite a bit, but it's complicated. So don't feel bad. It is really complicated, and And to be honest, I'm not a huge DMR user on a regular basis. It's kind of like a means to an end for me. So I like it because it is what it is. You know, I like it because it's interesting and different, and it's part of the hobby, and it's something technical, and it's kind of fun to play around with and try new things and make different capabilities for your shack out of it. But other than that, I mean, you could chop it up to like a really complicated Zoom call, you know? I mean, because you're talking over the internet. But it is really neat to finally get it working and then have that connectivity with other people, you know? So yeah, that's a good one. Thanks for that, Dave. This is Nick, KN6DAL with the 2 Meter Crew Anti-Net. We're looking for any and all check-ins. Come on in now. All right, let's call on Dan, N6ETR. I know you probably, I mean, every time I talk to you, you've got something cool going on, so you probably never really failed at anything in ham radio, but give it a shot. Let's see what you got.
KN6DAL, N6ETR. Good evening, everyone. This is Dan. So I was going over in my head all the small failures with my little Heathkit debacles, learning how to work on tube radios, which there's been plenty of that, letting the smoke out, blowing up power tubes, stuff like that. But Steven's story regarding the dipole issues, as well as Nick's comments thereafter, reminded me of my time when I failed to tie a guy rope correctly for a DX Commander in the breezy Fairfield wind. In the background image here, you'll see that the fiberglass pole, while resilient and flexible, did not stand up to the wrought iron fence that was nearby. So my ham radio friends that were there were all supportive. Oh, I'm sorry, Dan. And I'm like, it's cool, guys. I'm going to pout by myself and pick the pieces up for a little bit. And then the following year, I guyed it twice. I had 6 guy ropes on there. So it didn't fall down this time. And I'd like to thank Servando too for picking up the new mast for me. He did that, which was pretty cool. If you want to drop it, Nick. This is N6ETR continuing my rambling here. So anyway, the DX Commander was fixed, and I have not broken the second mast yet. As far as current projects go, I am working on a Heathkit receiver. Hopefully I won't break this one in a catastrophe. I will be tapping the IF amplifier stage so that I can read my received signals on a station monitor scope, an old school CRT tube. That is the current project I'm working on. Hopefully the smoke does not get let out, and I will report back next week with it hopefully working. This is N6ETR. Back to you guys.
Wow, so you is that the radio that you just recently bought, or is that the one that you've been working on getting running?
That's the one that I just bought.
Okay.
The one that I have in pieces is still in pieces in the garage. I should be working on that, but you know, then these other ones fell into my lap, so now I'm working on them.
There you go. Hey, that's awesome. Cool, man. Thanks for checking in with us, Dan. This is Nick, KN6DAL with the 2 Meter Crew Anti-Net. We're looking for any and all stations. Come on in now. All right, looks like Frank, you're up. N6G. I'm gonna screw it up. N6GLW, take it away. Nope, I messed it up.
You messed it up so much. Kilo Golf 6, November, Lima Whiskey. Good evening, one and all. First of all, I got a little treat from someone.
Aha.
Came while I was away on my little vacation. So, mini trip report. Activated no POTAs, had no time for ham radio, did call CQ constantly on 2 meter simplex and a little bit on 6 meter, but had absolutely no reply, none whatsoever. I saw that, dude. No reply whatsoever. I crossed through half of Nevada, the southeastern part of Oregon, and the northeastern part of California. Dead silence on both simplex channels, no matter how much I called. Repeaters were dead up there, everything. So really no ham radio over my trip, but we did have fun. Just got home literally an hour ago, so I quickly unpacked and got everything ready. And oh, the one thing that did happen is in the middle of trying to set up for a POTA activation at Lake Almanor, my laptop, something fell on it and smashed the screen to pieces. So it's the whole LCD on the inside is all smashed. The cover's broken apart. I'm looking at least $350 to get it repaired. So I got that to look forward to. Other than that, nothing else. KN6DAL on the Antinet, KG6NLW.
All right, KG6NLW. You always say it so fast, I can never remember it on the air, and it always sounds like something different. So sorry I butchered your call sign, but hey, it probably won't be the last time, so I'm not too sorry yet.
Think of it this way. King George VI never left Washington. King George VI, get it?
No. Wah, wah, wah.
British rule, King. If there was a King George VI, he never left Washington. All right, there we go. KG6, okay. And I'll tell you.
All right, thanks, Frank. This is Nick, KN6DAL, with the 2 Meter Crew Antinet. We're looking for any and all check-ins. If you want to check in, come on in now. Did anybody catch it? I saw it key up again.
It's keying up, but just for a second, and then it drops, and there's no audio that comes through.
Okay. All right, nothing being heard. I'm going to take one last call out, and then if there's no check-ins, we'll shut her down. One last call for the 2 Meter Crew Antinet. Any and all stations that wish to check in, come on in now.
Did you guys get posted? No.
Still didn't work.
Yeah, it's keying up, but it won't stay keyed up, and then it drops and no audio comes through.
I wonder if it's Hopland.
All right, we saw a couple of key ups and then drops there, so if we missed you because we didn't catch the audio, I apologize. We are having a little bit of technical issues before we started, so that could be part of it. Who knows? It could be anything. But I appreciate all the check-ins and I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. If you keep a lookout, we'll be meeting again next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And you can always join our Zoom link. I posted that in the chat group on YouTube. Again, that's at Northwest Ham Shack, and we'll be hanging out here just talking for a little bit, and you're welcome to join in. So I appreciate everybody coming out tonight, and we will say 7-3 until next week. Yeah, see, it keeps doing it. I don't know. It might not be anybody. It might just be something going on.
It doesn't normally happen. I mean, VVR is always dead quiet.
So I just disconnected from VVR. Tell me if it does it again, because it could be
still doing it right now.
It is right now. Okay, I'm completely disconnected from it.
Yeah,
it's still going.
I haven't even gotten a chance to get my radio on yet.
Yeah, that was a weird deal. So yeah, I got on and nothing was working, and I finally got it all to pull up again. Now I got to save. It looks like my WAN IP changed, and I got to change that in a couple of different configuration files, and then I should be good to go for everything. weird deal.
So
What a pain.
did anybody else get QSL cards from Connor?
I did.
I didn't get one.
I did.
It's nice. This bad
You
boy
didn't get
postcard
one?
quality.
I didn't get one. I'll see if
It is-
I'll see if I did. I haven't checked the mail in a while.
It came like 2 days later, maybe.
He was super quick.
Mine was here Saturday, and I live 100 miles north of him. We're all very close, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I
went out
didn't,
to-
I'm gonna give him a really hard time. I'm gonna go check as soon as we're done. I did fix my box, and so I don't know what Connor's issue was with gluing to the inside of this box. Mine worked perfect. So I just lightly sanded it, and then I used the exact same epoxy that you had gotten, and it worked. Hey guys, give me just 1 second. I'll be right back. Okay.
Sure thing. Talk to Dan without you.
Right.
Frank, so how come you didn't get to do any setup with any HF stuff? Any Poder?
Mostly it was family issues. We were running, there we go. We were running behind. I had, the old saying for those that do this sort of stuff, believe in upstairs or make plans and upstairs laughs, if you get my reference.
Right.
Yeah. I made long lists of plans down to timing and everything. And if it could go wrong with timing and everything, it went wrong.
Yeah.
So I pulled out the 450 like once at Black Rock and was there for about 5 minutes, and that was it.
Yeah. That's when we did our trip. When I did our trip with Servando, we had big plans, and he brought all of his gear and everything. And the first night, we got everything all set up. Taxi got Australia, Florida. I was cooking and taking care of stuff for everybody. Packed everything up, and then we were gonna set up in a couple different places. And the first night, it was just really windy, so I went off and flew my kites instead of trying to set up as DX Commander. And then the second night, there was like a major thunderstorm, like just to the south of us. Oh. And lightning, rain. It was like raining right to the edge of our camp. Like it was enough to like get the paint wet on your truck, but not exactly enough to get you wet. And If you went like another 80 yards behind us, it was dry as a bone. And across, the little valley from us, it was raining pretty significantly. But we're like, yeah, we're not going to set up the antenna right now in a lightning, electrical storm. Yeah. So we had all these great plans, and nothing happened of it.
So yeah. You mentioned flying kites while you were there.
Yeah.
What about like doing a 160 sloper using a kite?
I'm down. I don't think I have the kite for that, but there's easily a kite that you could use to do that. And that would be a trick, but it would be pretty fun.
Yeah.
They make these like big giant like box kites that you launch them, and you have a reel that attaches to the hitch of your vehicle, and they're just flying off of the hitch of your vehicle, and I mean a person can't hold them down, but it'll fly up there as far up as you want to let it go, nice and stable, and just hang up there for as long as you want.
And speaking of Servando, I actually got to talk to him today.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah, he was on 3-3 for all about 5-10 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, he's keeping busy.
Very.
I did get so I also welded on, I don't have the picture handy, but I welded on 2 tabs to the back of that tire carrier that's on the back of my truck. So now I have a place to put either a tar heel or a ham stick or, an HF, a couple HF antennas for my truck. So it progress on that project too. I was getting a bunch of stuff done this week. So cool things. The ham shack is big. I've been working on and dreading this project that I spent a good part of the weekend and a little bit of Monday working on. But I made some big progress there and just figuring out the whole desk thing and how that's going to work. So I think today, I was out this afternoon, but I think today my nail gun showed up at the office. So I'll be able to nail the trim on the outside this weekend, if not before. And then the outside is totally finished. So now I need to run the wiring inside. Going to do the 12 volt like we talked about last time. But I'm trying to decide what's the best way to run the wiring, if through the walls, because the panel's on one side of the building and the bench needs to be on the opposite side of the building. And so I either have to go through all the studs to get from one side to the other to put my electrical over there. I can go underneath, but it's exposed underneath. There's no crawl space. It's kind of open underneath. Or I can go over the top. But then if I do that, I have to go through all the rafters across the top. So kind of like, I'm thinking I'm just going to run it through the wall. Probably the easiest way to go.
And drill every stud?
Yeah.
Wow.
There's probably only 12 of them, maybe maybe 15 or 20, and big spade bit, it goes right through. It's pretty quick and easy. But I think that's probably going to be the best way to go. I wish Kellen was on. I could ask him, the electrician, how to do it best. And my other electrician buddy in town said, yeah, however you want, they all work.
Right.
What's the easiest for me was probably along through the wall, because I can, as far as pulling wires through and working on it and drilling the holes, I don't have to go on a ladder and I don't have to crawl underneath the building. So from access point, that's probably the easiest way to go.
How tall is the inside of it? What's the ceiling height?
Well, what's a standard door is like 6'8".
Yeah.
So it's probably about 6'10". It has a little bit of a slope to it. So on the short side, it's probably about 6'10", and on the tall side, it's probably about 7.5 feet, something like that. It's so I have a full size standard door on it, and there's probably about a foot above the standard door, and that's the lower portion of the ceiling. So the rafters basically sit on top of that, and then the roof is stacked on top of that.
Okay.
So I need to come up with some lighting though. And with Connor's constant whining about LEDs, I'm like and noise from LEDs, I'm like really afraid to use anything with an LED. And it's like, even if you buy a decent LED, not like LED Christmas lights or whatever else, is that still going to create a lot of noise? And should I just find something incandescent? Or
a lot of it is the power supply, not really the lights itself. It's the power supply running the lights that that causes problems, because they all run on little 13 volt switching power supplies that can produce noise, but some don't. So it just kind of depends. You might have to try out a couple different ways and see.
That sounds like a pain in the butt.
I know.
But I'm looking to put the lights actually in the ceiling, and button the shack up. It's like, I don't want to be trying a bunch of different things. Right. I could find some like pendant lights or something like that would be easy to swap if I needed to. But I could even run like some 12 volt lights, that might be less noisy. So
Yeah.
I could do like a dual lighting, you know, if the LEDs are creating a problem, you know, I could switch those off and switch on the submarine lights for when I want to be hearing those distant stations or whatever.
That's
So
cool. Yeah, you guys were talking about kites. You know, I thought about it a couple times going to field day, bringing, like, you can get these industrial size, like, latex balloons. And you know, you can get like smaller bottles
tank
of helium that you can fill them up when you're at the site or whatever. But everywhere we've gone has been so windy that I've scrapped the idea. You know, if it was something where there was no wind, it would probably hold up a little bit better. But in the wind environment that we've typically been in during field day, it's that's bound to cause some kind of massive catastrophe. Hey, maybe it'd be an idea so that we could create more content for another one of these disaster situation conversations. I don't know, but
that's, you know, if you get the whole kite plan set up and everything ready to go, guaranteed it'll be still as can be.
Yeah.
Not a breeze.
Right.
Not a breeze.
Again, Dave, make plans and upstairs laughs. That's just, it's science.
Yeah, that does sound kind of fun though.
Yeah.
It would be fun to have to use a kite to hold up your antenna.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys have ever been to a kite festival. I used to be into kiting when the kids were smaller. We used to go to the beach all the time, and I used to fly kites a lot. And we went to the kite festival down in Berkeley, and I mean, they get these just ginormous, you know, it looks like you know, the dragon from the Chinese New Year, you know, parades that they do, but in the sky. You know, it's 100 feet long. You know, it's the size, the front end of it is the size of a car. I mean, it looks like a bus in the air. And they have these, you know, cables that they winch them out. Like once they launch them, they winch them out on this cable to get them up to whatever height they're going to have them at. And they leave them tied to the back of a SUV, and they just stay up there all day long, just flying. Big old kite just hanging up there. And you can't, like, there's a lot of other kites and things that are staked down, but you can't stake this thing down. It would rip any stake out of the ground. I mean, it needs like a 4,000 pound anchor to be attached to. But it's something, there's scaled down versions of basically the same thing that you can get a very stable kite that will just hang up there in the air that you could dangle an antenna from. Oh yeah, there you go.
And you can reliably keep a kite kind of fixed in one location in the air, huh?
With those big giant ones, you can.
Okay.
As long as you have consistent wind, and you know, it'll move around a little bit in the sense of it'll kind of go higher or lower or to the left or to the right. But in general, it's going to fly in a consistent position. And there's a picture about half right to the right of where your mouse is. Go up just a little bit. Look at that giant fish. Yeah. So you can also stack kites. So if you see in that picture right there, there's like a stack of kites. And if you stack multiple kites in a row, that also helps to keep them very stable, because they're, you know, if one tries to veer off because the wind pattern is a little bit different, the other one is holding it up.
So they're daisy chained together.
Yeah, basic, exactly. One rope to the ground, and the kites are one kite attached to the next kite, attached to the next kite. I've a giant whale. I mean, those things are just ginormous. And there's so much wind drag on them when they're up there in the air that it just keeps them very they don't move around a whole lot. They pretty much just hang there. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I've done a lot more with the stunt kites. And you can even stack those things. But I don't, I've seen all these things flying, but I've never flown one myself. But yeah, giant windsocks. I mean, and a lot of these things are reasonably packable because there's not a lot to them. You know, it's just a big giant windsock basically. So that's kind of a cool idea. It would definitely work over in Rio Vista.
I think we got to try it. That's, you know, Kellen's always like the big bad antenna guy.
Yeah.
You can't beat a kite.
No, that's pretty cool. We can, we got 6 months to figure it out. I'm going to be shopping for kites here pretty quick.
All right.
It would have worked where we stopped the first time. You definitely could have run in a long antenna off of a kite, but yeah, it was too windy to put up the DX commander. Like it was blowing.
Yeah. And I was sitting there watching it and I'm like, oh, it'll be fine. And then it wasn't.
Dave, go up to Black Rock Desert and fly a kite.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always windy there. Always.
Yeah. That's the first place that we camped out is, well, it's kind of near this picture that's behind me. So like this picture that is behind me is probably like 8,500 feet elevation. And there's just, you know, just flat kind of high desert with no trees or nothing. It's just scrub bushes everywhere. And the wind can really kind of get going through there.
Sounds like exactly what I dealt with.
What's that?
Is that Eastern Sierras?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is so this little road right here, that's probably 65 mile an hour speed rating for me.
Nice. Nice.
It's we get out there and just go for it.
You know, that looks almost exactly like Eastern Washington.
Yeah,
it looks a lot like.
But Eastern Washington doesn't have as much elevation, right? It's a little bit lower.
It depends on where you go. I mean, you're not. I don't know what the base elevation of that is right there, but I want to say you're. I mean, it gets to as low as 1,500 feet, and then gets up to I want to say 4,000 or 5,000 feet.
The base elevation for this area is like at the lowest you could get to anywhere around here is like over 6,000.
Yeah.
So the road right behind me right here is probably over. It's probably 8,000 feet. The top of that hill is probably 85, something like that. Yeah. It might be even a little bit higher than that. But we were camped at LaBelle Lake, I think is 9,500 feet. So our first night we spent at 9,500 feet and then went up to the top of the mountain from there, which would have been just epic to set up and you know, make some HF contacts from. But it was windy. We had a bunch of other people. We could have done it, but a bunch of non-radio people that were, you know, screwing around up there. And but man, if you could set up there, you could talk to anybody in the world. it's 11.8. The top, you can drive your vehicle to 11.8, and basically you can see over the top of everything around you. You can see to the extreme horizon in all directions. So pretty cool spot.
If I could have stopped for more than 30 seconds on some of the parts of Highway 140 in northern Nevada and southeastern Oregon. Sorry, I'm getting tired. It's been a 14-hour day. There are parts of 140 that were like that, and I was only 6,500 feet up. I was like, that's, you know, it was just amazing. I wish my laptop hadn't broke, because now I'll be missing dash cam footage Like, I'm sure the hard drive's fine and everything, but my dash cam starts to override after a certain point, and it definitely probably overwrote on a few of the days, and I'm disappointed because I was planning on importing every day to the laptop.
What a pain. What were you saying, Nick?
Did you guys see that post that that Mike had put on Discord about the trunk SDR trunk? You guys ever heard of it?
Yeah, I looked at it. I've glanced at it a couple of times, but not actually got into reading it.
So I've got an SDR and I've never really used it for anything. I just haven't found a need. But when he posted that, I was curious, you know, how you could use the functionality of that software. Like, is it only on Windows? Or but a couple people, including him, posted that you can run it on a Linux machine. And so I'm hoping I can load that on my Raspberry Pi, and if I can get that program running, I'm going to run an SDR in that box, and then I can have you know, full scanner functionality, as well as HF, VHF, UHF, logging capability, all of that, all in one fell swoop.
To do the HF on a SDR like that, don't you need to have what do you need for an antenna? Will it pick up with that little antenna that's on there?
I think it'll pick some stuff up, but nothing like what you would need. You would need to connect it to a better antenna. But for like, you know, all the P25 stuff is, I think, like 800 megs or better. I don't know for sure. I'm not even really much of a scanner. Frank probably knows.
Yeah.
It's all higher frequency stuff, right?
Yeah, UHF 7-800, depending upon where you're at. And the SDR stuff works just fine for that. I use it to listen to various systems, and I log and decode stuff. And yeah, there's a lot going on with it. And it's actually fun. I haven't loaded it onto a Raspberry Pi or anything. I use the Windows laptop, but I do have it loaded on my Mac if I need it.
Yeah. And that was one question they were concerning. So it sounds like it's open source and it'll pretty much work on everything. So,
Windows and Linux, I have to run a virtual box on my Mac to use
to make it work. Okay.
Yeah.
I've watched a video, like a YouTube video on something very similar to that. And I think the guy just like hooked up a coat hanger, you know, and you know, and he was picking up all kinds of crazy things. Like,
yeah, I mean, well, it's a little different because you're not transmitting, right? So you don't have to have like a resonant antenna or anything. But obviously, if it's just like with anything. If you try to listen on 20 meters with a antenna that isn't anywhere near what it needs to be, you don't, you know, height is might, and you know, building the best antenna for what you're trying to receive is how you're going to receive it.
Yeah. What do you do? Do you do 80 meters?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you use for an 80 meter antenna?
I have a half wave dipole.
Okay. I have that stupid fan dipole.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
That's what I run a fan on 80, 40, and 20.
Okay.
So anything else I have to tune, but I get relatively close on 18 or on 17, and then I can tune on 10 meters, and it works. It's probably not ideal. I could run a 10-meter leg pretty easy.
Is it tied up in a tree?
So it's actually tied to a tree on a metal mast, and it's like so. The mast is like maybe that big around. Like it's not quite a fence post. It's like smaller than that. It's like electrical conduit almost, but it's pretty thick. It's pretty heavy. And I'm at about 25, almost 30 feet on just that alone. But the bottom third of it is tied to a tree. So the tree is like the base of my mast. And so it goes up through the middle of the tree, and then the top of it, I have the the 3 legs on each side coming off. And then so my backyard's not big enough for 80 meters. So I have my 80 meter legs come off, and then one comes it kind of tethers off of another tree so that it can angle differently, and then goes to the side of the house. And then the other one goes right up to the corner of my eave, and then to the other side of the house. So the 80 meter leg is a little wonky, but it's roughly facing northeast southwest. So I get into Texas, southern states pretty well, and then I get Alaska, Japan, all of that really well. And then DX, it just really just kind of depends on conditions. It'll kind of get it.
Yeah. How long is the 80 meter, the total overall length of the 80 meter elements?
I would have to do the math, because every antenna situation is different. So my coax is cut, and we'll talk about this later, and I'll give you a link to one of Jason's videos where they talk about cutting your coax to resonant lengths, to as far as performance. There's a benefit to that. It's not going to make the world of difference, but it's enough that it's worth looking into and at least understanding the concept. But the length of my actual antenna, if I had to, I want to say it's around 130 feet total.
Each leg should be like 65, I think.
Yeah,
roughly around there.
That's sounding about right. I have that fan dipole that I was going to set up, and I have a big wall of trees at the back, wall of redwood trees at the back of my property.
Yeah.
That I can set up and tie off to. And I was going to put I think it's 80 and 40 are on the top set of elements. And then you run the next two down, basically. So one's like a flat top, and then the other one runs down like this, to not screw up the resonance. But it's also, I'm trying to understand the height above the ground, and how many wavelengths I need to be, how high I need to be to get that half wavelength.
There's ideal ground. And then there's practical, and they're always different. And they're always way different. But yeah, the ideal is you want to be a half wavelength above the ground. You could achieve that relatively easy on 20 meters and above. 40, what's that? A half wavelength on 40 meters is what, 60 feet or
60
something?
feet. Yeah.
So that's even hard to achieve. And then for 80, you're out of the ballpark. It's way too high. But some people can do it, and if you can do it, I think your noise floor might be a little high, but your receive is going to be fantastic.
Hey guys, I'm going to have to jump out for tonight. I'll see y'all next week.
All right, we'll see you.
See you.
Bye.
Have a good night.
So I've got those big trees. I need to get a lift, so I can do some cleaning of the trees anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to try and set up something so I can hang. Cause I mean, I could get, there are 100-foot trees, 100-foot redwoods. I think I can probably get, between the group of trees, 130 feet's a long ways, but I could get pretty darn close to it.
I'd invest in whatever cheapest line you can find, as far as like just paracord or any kind of rope or anything, and put pulleys at stages all over those things, dude. Just tap pulleys in and have them marked going down to the ground and tied off. That way, once you've rented this piece of equipment, you can go up there and put them wherever you want, and then you can play from the ground. And as long as you have those ropes ready to go, you can string up whatever you want, string down whatever you want. And I would go get like 8 or 10 pulleys, and put a pulley at 25 feet, put a pulley at 35, one at 45, one at 60, one at 80, one at 100, and then you can spend the rest of your life coming up with antenna projects. That's just me. If I had that, that's exactly what I would do.
That's a good.
Yeah, you're only gonna have the machine to clear out the trees for a limited amount of time. But if you get some high end pulleys that are, that are gonna last, you don't want to get cheap ones, but if you get good pulleys that you can string stuff up to, and then you can just tie that stuff off and run whatever lengths of crap you want all day long, man.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I do have, I've been looking, I mentioned, I don't know, months ago when we were talking about my tower, that urban beam.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that from the Step IR urban beam? So it's, they have a copper band and it has a motor that is self-tuning. So whatever frequency you go to, and so it's basically a fiberglass tube that this copper band gets longer or shorter inside of, in order to tune to the frequency that you're on. The urban beam is like the smallest with the broadest coverage. It's 20 or 40 to 6, I think.
And it's so modestly priced.
I know, right? That's only part of it. That's only part of it because you need the controller to make it work as well. Like that's only the antenna. That doesn't include the controller and you, of course, you need a rotator because it's a beam. So, I mean, oh, geez, I'm going to start saving my pennies now because by the time I finally, get the tower up in the air.
It's almost like a Moxon. It's a Moxon design. There's no way that you will ever get me to spend that much money on this antenna. There's no way.
But I'll put up the fan dipole in the near term, as soon as I kind of get things going back there. And I'll probably just end up going, I'm not going to spend that kind of money on this thing. But I have watched some reviews on it, and this one guy is just like, this thing is fantastic. And for me, the experience that I've had with the DX Commander, almost every time, if I can hear them, they can hear me. And that's from my very shitty situation in my backyard here. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not ideal. I'm in my backyard. I have a high noise floor. There's a big mountain range, 200 yards to the east of me. There's another big mountain range. I'm in a ditch. There's another big mountain range a mile and a half to the west of me. So it's hard to get that real low angle, signal coming out. But almost every time, if I can hear them, they can hear me. But if I could get the directional control of a beam, it would make certain contacts a whole lot easier. Yeah. It would be a big advantage comparatively to the vertical, even though the vertical is awesome and, having a good time with it. But I could easily, that gain that you have with a beam is just something that vertical or even a dipole, the problem with the dipole, it's great once it's up there and it does have, some gain to it, but it's not movable. Right. You can't, so I have to be, that's the other thing what you were saying about where you're getting stations and where you have the best performance. I haven't been careful to understand which direction the trees are aligned. So I haven't quite figured that out and which angle is going to be the best angle that I want the dipole strung up at. And I know that as soon as I get it up in those trees, I'm going to be pissed that I didn't go to the different angle.
Well, it depending on how far apart did you say the 200-foot trees are? How much
There's a
length do you-
wall. There's a wall of them. So I have, it's basically the entire width of the property.
how long is that? How many feet is that?
I think it's close to 100 feet.
Okay.
It's close. I could probably from one, but I can also kind of go diagonal from one tree to another tree that's across the yard,
Yeah.
which I do kind of want to cut down. But I could probably get a little more than 100 feet distance between them.
Yeah.
So is your dipole center fed?
Yes.
So are you worried at all? Because I have a G5 RV that I've been, dragging my feet on hanging. Are you worried at all about the weight of the coax and the center fed isolator dragging the antenna down, or do you plan on just pulling it that tight?
That's a good question. And if I stretch it the length of the trees, because it's basically like the guy behind me planted redwood trees in a line on the back fence. And so if I could tie the antenna one tip to one tree, one tip to the other tree, and tie the feed point to one of the other trees in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So I could support the middle that way. So there is some center support options. I was going to use bungee cord on the ends because I'm concerned because the trees do move a lot, and I need to have some stretch in there because otherwise it'll snap the antenna. If you're tying off to giant redwoods high off the ground, I mean, they move in a breeze, much less a wind.
Yeah, some of the dipole installations that I've read up online, guys will also, on their pulleys, they'll free hang the rope on the other side of the pulley with a counterweight and let the counterweight free flow.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, and you can, I mean, with the, I have a G5 RV running around here somewhere, or I used to, and the cable on that, the copper line is fairly strong.
Yeah.
You can hang, I actually hung mine in California from I had, I think it was almost 5 pounds. It was a fairly heavy amount. It was either 2.5 or 5 pounds. I just used a dive weight, like a sandbag dive weight, and tied it, hung it over a tree branch in the backyard, and literally you could watch it when it was windy. It would just kind of move up and down and up and down, and it seemed fine, but it kept it pretty tight. So
cool.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Yeah, it's not a UV5R, but it's similar. It's I think the diamond version of that.
Okay.
So but basically same thing. So all righty.
All right, guys.
All right.
Do it again next week.
Cool.
Looking forward to it. I'll
See
have
ya.
an update on the shack. Maybe I'll put up a picture of the shack next week. It'll be
Sweet.
looking sharp by then.
All right. Nice.
Cool.
All right.
All right.
See you
ya.
later, you two.
Yes.
See y'all later.